Attention to brief. Welcome to the Briefing Room, a show by Warriors for Warriors. This weekly show brings you thought leaders, senior executives from industry, government, and of course, entrepreneurship. What we do is we bring to you information that you can use to make your life better and be the pinnacle of competitiveness, toughness, and success. Today's show, we're going to start off like we always do, around the world in 15 minutes. So for Northern Command, the big issue in the United States right now is the government shutdown. We are in our 5th week. And what does it mean? It means on Saturday, November 1st, for the first time in U.S. history, warriors are concerned about the paycheck for the active duty, whether they're going to get that November 1st paycheck or not. Those who are receiving Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, those 42 million Americans, that money is gone. There will be no SNAP payments. As of today, no SNAP payments on Saturday. So what does that mean for us? It means, well, there's a lot of people who are going to be pinching pennies because that SNAP money fuels a huge portion of their budgets. Women, infants, and children. There are 800,000 Americans who are part of Women's, Infants, and Children who also will not be receiving funds on 1 November. And finally, the Rural Air Service on the 1st of November, on Saturday, many Americans who catch flights to rural areas will either see a price increase or a cancellation of those flights. So this government shutdown is having real impact on real Americans. What happens? What can we do? What should we do? Again, continue to monitor opm.gov. For those of you who are giving guidance to people who are on Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, 20 states have issued either lawsuits or declarations of emergencies, and those states have websites where you can go or you can send other people who need food assistance directly to those websites for assistance. Maryland.gov is one, and states like 19 other states are also looking for solutions to this current crisis. In Southcom, that's always one of my favorite parts of the world. This is the 10th strike in the Caribbean and or the Pacific against a go-fast vessel that is moving in international waters. The legal complexities of this matter has not yet been fully resolved, but it is in contention, and the U.S. and Venezuela continue to escalate. The USS Gerald R. Ford is entering into the Caribbean, which marks one of the first times in recent memory that a United States aircraft carrier has gone into the Caribbean with a mission, a real-world operational mission, and not just as an exercise. The Argentina beef plan. So the United States has decided to support the government of Argentina. President Trump has provided $20 billion in financial assistance and also the promise to purchase beef from Argentina. What does that mean for us? American beef farmers are in an uproar about this purchase of beef from Argentina. As soon as new competitor countries bring food into the United States, it ends cattle operations for cattlemen from Florida all the way to Montana. Those operations are multi-generational operations. They're not easy to bring back. The price of beef is at an all-time high. It's 15% higher than it was last year. And so the concern from U.S. farmers is that once you introduce this beef from Argentina, it's going to artificially depress the prices, which may drive some farmers out of business. So let's pay close attention to what's going on in Argentina and what's going on with the food prices. The last thing in CENTCOM is Hurricane Melissa. Hurricane Melissa plowed through Jamaica. It's on its way to Cuba. It's left several people who have died, lots of people who've been injured. But the biggest thing about Hurricane Melissa, it is the first and most strongest Atlantic hurricane that has ever hit Jamaica. It hit Jamaica as a Category 5, bringing with it destruction. The rebuild efforts in the Caribbean will take decades to happen. Those of you who've seen what happened in New Orleans know that after Hurricane Katrina, even with all of our prowess as the greatest country in the world, New Orleans is still not fully rebuilt. So we'll be keeping a close eye on things that happen in Jamaica. Across the Atlantic into EUCOM. So the United States is going to cut some troops that are part of NATO. So we're going to cut about 700 troops that are in NATO. We're going to move them to the Pacific region. This is part of a strategy to decrease the U.S. Involvement in NATO. Since the end of World War II, the Supreme European Commander has always been an American four-star. That is who leads NATO. That is who historically has led NATO. And we'll see what the future holds for U.S. primacy at NATO. Additionally, in the European theater, Ukraine and Russia continue to engage in warfare. Ukraine is leveraging its drone capability to strike deep into Russia, and Russia is massing ground forces. The heart of the matter with the Ukraine-Russia war is a region called Donbass. And for those of you who've never worked in the European theater, Donbass is the coal and the economic engine of Ukraine. It has a lot of Russian-speaking citizens, so Russia likes to say, hey, we're just taking back Russians for Russia. But it's a lot deeper than that, much, much deeper than that. The people in the Donbass region have always been Ukrainians. Yes, some of them speak Russian, but they've always thought of themselves as Ukrainians. They are also the economic engine of Ukraine. So whoever controls the Donbass region controls about 20% of the wealth of Ukraine. That is what the Ukraine-Russia conflict is about. Whenever you hear negotiations, they're always centered around, will Ukraine give up the Donbass, or will Ukraine fight to keep the Donbass? Going down to CENTCOM. Yesterday, Israeli forces struck into Gaza, breaking the ceasefire. It was a temporary break in the ceasefire. They resumed the ceasefire today. That coordinated attack was done in coordination with United States leadership at CENTCOM. And so that was not done in a vacuum. And it was, according to reports, designed to take out some suspected terrorists that might threaten the ceasefire. On the other side of the coin, those on the ground in Gaza say that it was an unprovoked attack, that it broke the ceasefire agreement, and that the Palestinians, the Hamas authorities, are also willing to continue the ceasefire, even though they allege that Israel broke it. Africa Command. Three big things in Africa Command. Number one is in Cameroon. Cameroon, the president of Cameroon is 92 years old. Yes, you heard that correctly, 92. He intends to stay in office for another 7 years and be the oldest living president to ever run a country. There are young people in the streets now protesting his leadership. Cameroon holds a strategic position in West Africa, so instability in Cameroon threatens the region. Additionally, in Libya, Flint Rock 26, Africa Command is working with the Libyan security forces to try to bring some stability to that war-torn country. Ever since President Muammar Gaddafi was killed, the country has been in constant conflict between Eastern Libya and Western Libyan security forces. AFRICOM is seeking to have exercises that bring those two forces together to train them in civil military rule and also in the rule of law for military organizations. And last but not least, in AFRICOM, Sudan. There is a crisis right now in Sudan between two warring generals, one who controls the north, the other who controls the south. The two generals have both been sanctioned by both the U.S. and United Nations officials, but the war continues. Right now in Darfur, there is hundreds of thousands of civilians who are trapped by the RSF, and they risk another potential genocide or massacre in the Darfur region. So those of you who are familiar with Sudan and all who care about peace and strength through peace, let's keep a close eye on Sudan in the coming weeks. And lastly, in Asia, President Trump is in Asia. He is doing a tour through Asia. He has already visited Japan. He visited South Korea. And tomorrow, the president will be in China negotiating business deals and also talking about peace and security in the region. So that right there is around the world in 10 minutes. Let's go to a quick commercial before I bring on one of my favorite guests. He's going to be on this show. I want you to enter questions in the chat. If you're a government official and you're laid off, you don't want to miss this.
What you put in to the system is what you get out. And you've often heard garbage in, garbage out. Well, an entire group of humans will have to interrogate the data in AI, or what we call training. You put the stuff in and you make sure that it is correct. AI does hallucinate. It fills in the gap. So where there is no knowledge, it will fill in that gap. And then it will remember. So bad data, bad answers continue to grow within the system. That is the power of asking the right questions and looking at a person as the whole and finding solutions, and not simply using it as a quick research tool, but actually using it as a way of augmenting to the brain and to the knowledge and to the specialty of experts.
This year, the tide is stronger than ever. For 30 years, we've been creating space for growth, innovation, and global competitiveness in STEM. From students and early career professionals to senior leaders and executives, this is where STEM changemakers gather. Join us in Baltimore for the 30th anniversary of the Waves of Change STEM Global Competitiveness Conference. 3 days of learning, networking, and shaping the future. October 23rd through the 25th, Baltimore, Maryland. Mark your calendar. Waves of Change, Oceans of Opportunity. More information at ccgmag.com/WOC.
Welcome back to the briefing room. Yesterday, I returned from Baltimore after attending a powerful conference of thought leaders at the Waves of Change Conference. This was the 30th year of the Waves of Change Conference. We had over 1,000 people from senior executives in corporations, from government leaders and students who came together to talk about artificial intelligence, quantum, talk about the intersection of technology, business, and government. It was a fantastic time. My guest was there at the conference with me. I want to introduce to everyone Mr. Mario Mo Williams, a talent executive who can show you how to get your, there he is, how to get your next opportunity. Welcome to the show, Mario.
I don't think you guys can hear me. I'm having some audio issues. Can you guys hear me?
Listen, I got you 5 by 5. I can hear you loud and clear.
I can't hear you, so I'll just read it best I can.
Okay. No. Tell you what we're going to do is we're going to take a short moment to get your technical difficulties solved, and then we will come right back to Mario. So team, go ahead and offline fix his technical issues. And then while
calling
you're
all
doing
future
that,
STEM pioneers, leaders, and career champions.
Audience
Join us on every second Saturday of the month for the BEA Career Day. BEA STEM Career Day is all about creating opportunities for students to venture into the world of STEM through the eyes of professionals. You'll meet mentors and presenters that will give you a sneak peek into the many options available to you in the field of STEM. Hosted by teen ambassadors, you'll find yourself among inspiring peers just like yourself that are aiming high for their future. To take part in the BEA STEM Career Day on Zoom, visit fullstemahead.us and register for the next session. Again, that's fullstemahead.us. BEA, becoming everything you are.
A world of careers unleashed. You can get it at BEA. Become everything you are.
All right, welcome back to the briefing room. So in a few moments, our guest, Mr. Mario Mo Williams, will come on. His presence today is critically important as hundreds of thousands of federal workers have either been affected by a reduction in force or furloughed and are currently at home. So what do you do when you're furloughed? What are some of the top tips from talent professionals like Mario that you can use while you're at home? The number one tip that I would recommend is that you leverage the time. This is your opportunity to go out, update your resume, to go out, update your skills, and to go out and update your network. So the number one recommendation for anyone who is currently on furlough or who's been laid off or is a college student who's looking at their opportunities is to update. And again, the three things to update, I have to reiterate this, is update your resume, update your network, and update your skills. Those are the things that are going to get you hired and set you off on your new adventure. To my production team that's operating in the background, as soon as Mr. Williams' audio is back up and working, I want you to bring him back onto this screen so that the audience can hear directly from him what are his top 10 tips to do in this time as a talent professional. So my number 2 tip for talent professionals is to remember this: every conversation is an interview. Every time that you talk to a person on the street or at a conference, that is an opportunity for you to showcase your skills, your network, and your capabilities. So every conversation is an interview. I see on the screen, I got Mario back, and look, he has his Florida A&M Rattlers sweatshirt on. So thank you for representing the highest of Seven Hills. You know, Rattlers strike again. So welcome back.
I'm glad. Thanks for having me, Matt. Man, thanks for having me on the show. Thanks to everyone for putting this on, man. So, I'm ready to help anywhere I can and give any words of encouragement I can also give.
Excellent. Well, I think we're starting a tradition on this show. I'm coming all suited and booted with my hat on. And all of our guests, the way this show works is they come with a shirt or a sweatshirt that really counts who they are. So, one of the mottos for Florida A&M is excellence with caring. So, but a leader like you doesn't just get there. So we're going to break this show into 2 parts. The first is, I know you, but I want the audience to know you. So tell us, who is Mario Williams? Where are you from? Let's start at the beginning. Let's start before the beginning. Let's start, who are the people? Where are you from?
Let's take it back, man. So I'm from Michigan, man. I'm from a small town in the inner city of Detroit called Highland Park, Michigan. It's a real small town. Reggie McKenzie, all those guys are from there. But it's a real proud town. I'm proud to be from Highland Park, not from Detroit. So it's a different thing. People will say that if you're from Michigan. I guess I've been a nerd and an athlete all of my life. I've always enjoyed science and math, always enjoyed getting good grades. I don't know. It's my mom and my dad. I blame those guys for that. But I love to compete. So I can compete in the classroom or on the football field or on the basketball court. It was something about that level of competition that I've always thrived in. From there,
we have a picture of you as a child, before you became this big time executive, I show the audience of, so
look at this guy.
The guy is, you're looking at young, handsome young man, bright future ahead of him. But at that time, he didn't know he had a bright future. He didn't know he was going to go into engineering. So give the audience a sense of, what did that Mario Williams, tell us about a story about a mentor who shaped that Mario Williams to become the Mario Williams that we know.
So this is actually, I didn't even know what engineer was at this phase of my life. This was it was a STEM kind of introduction way back. I think I was in 3rd grade, and I had a teacher named Miss Dean. God bless her heart. She introduced me to other things. Like you didn't think. I mean, I wanted to go in the military. That's all I knew. I wanted to be something with the country. I wanted to do something. My uncle was in the Army, so I wanted to go in the military, make my family proud. But at this time of my life, like I didn't know what an engineer was. I didn't know what other options were even there for me to do. And it was this teacher in my 3rd grade year who said, "Hey, there's other options for you. You should look into this." And it kind of channeled my energy to something different.
Wow, fantastic. And so then in that 3rd grade Mario, that 8-year-old Mario, I know you wanted to go into the military. Tell us some of the lessons that you learned outside of school, either through sports or by your family or by your church or mosque or temple.
It's always been, so church-wise, it's always put God first. Have faith in something bigger than yourself. That's the main thing. And that's anything that I've always been a part of, be it a sports team or any team that I led. There's always the mission or the goal that we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's always at the forefront of anyone's mind when you're trying to work as a group. The other thing is just being a good teammate. Sometimes that teammate is carrying the helmet to the locker room. Sometimes that teammate is, making the winning play. But it all plays a part of being successful as a team and being able to accept that role. So I think throughout my career and 20 plus years of doing what I do, I think one of the things that I carry with me is being a good teammate. Even as a leader role, being a teammate has been a big factor. This picture's hilarious. A big factor in who I am and how I've been able to grow.
Well, we have a picture there of you in a uniform on a football field. So tell us about the role of athletics and the role of Florida A&M in shaping you as a leader.
So, funny story. I had committed to Michigan to play football, University of Michigan to play football. And my mom was against it. It wasn't going to happen. She didn't want me to go to a football factory. So I ended up at FAMU, and at first I was a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie to you. You get your heart set on one thing, you do something else. But then I got down there, and I got entrenched in the culture. And what I learned is that it's not just about being from Detroit, because I didn't know. I mean, in all aspects, it's HBCU. So you see a lot of people that look like you at the school. But what you don't realize is, Detroit has its own way of handling their things. And then you got New York and you got St. Louis. But all together, you get this beautiful, I don't know, culmination of what we are. And that's what makes, the highest of seven hills, as high as seven hills, is it's that culmination and bringing all those minds together, those great young minds to sculpt and iron sharpen iron kind of thing. And that's what makes us all great. But this picture, man, I was so hot. It was so hot in Florida. I wasn't ready for the heat. I think I was dehydrated every single day of it, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, we had a number of students from Florida A&M University who were there in Baltimore with us.
Yeah, yeah.
You talked to them and gave them some really great mentorship, and I also spoke with them. What would you say to the president of the university or the vice president of student affairs or even the board as to how important STEM and STEM outreach and extracurriculars are to your development, but also to the development of those students who are there from 2025, say, to 2029?
I think it's uber important. I think the world's going to drive. You're at the tip of the knife or tip of the spear when you talk about STEM, anything we do. And I think that a school like Florida A&M, where it embraces that, we're founded on that, just a farming school, that's still STEM. So you take that into consideration of what we've grown from and what we're doing and people we're producing. I'm an alumni of this institution, so it makes me feel good to look back and see those kids. But the one thing I would say is keep embracing that family model we have. That is what drove me through. I mean, it's hard enough being an engineering major playing football, but it's even harder when you don't have that family support. And my family's from Detroit. So having family there that I can call family, that's in my family, which even better. So yeah, that's even more so in driving and thriving in that area.
So you're down there in Tallahassee, you're doing 2-a-days or maybe even 3-a-days at the collegiate.
Yeah, back then it was a lot more brutal.
Brutal. And then at some point you fulfill your lifelong dream of service. And this show is about warriors. I mean, when you talk about growing up in Detroit, I think there are some cities in America that people say, hey, that builds a toughness coming from Detroit, coming from a farm. Then you would say, hey, going to play football. If you're playing football at the level that you can even consider Michigan, you're at the upper levels of football.
I thought I was, at least. I thought I was. I think two things at FAMU. I think I had an opportunity, like I said, to participate in the program for Bootstrap, which allowed me to kind of serve my country in the Air Force, which is what I always wanted to do. So I got to live my lifelong dream in a 4-year spirit. I got to play college football, and I got to actually go to school to learn something that I always loved doing, which was aircraft and flight. Crazy thing is, I got involved with aerospace engineering because I always like World War II. I'm a nerd when it comes to World War II. I love the whole fighter pilot world, the red tails. That is like my era and time, just even for fashion and dress. But I think that era kind of opened my eyes to, hey, I can do this. I was too afraid of heights, but I can design the airplanes to go faster and stronger and carry more payloads, keep our guys safe. That's kind of how I got into it. But I was exposed more to this, being involved in that culture where you see and learn a lot from the perspective of the Black African American or the Black man going through World War II. That was a different world, man. You don't realize that what those pilots got to go through and those engineers and those techs had to go through in order to keep those planes in the air. So yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, no, you absolutely hit it. And then I'm going to ask the production team to take down the football photo. I want them to zoom in on you because I want to go back to something that you said. You guys can put me out on the side and just hear my voice. I want you to zoom in on Mario because of what he said in the passion which we said it. Who really paved the way for the American military as we know it today. So Mario, can you highlight any heroes in particular or any movie in particular that really kind of embodies that spirit? And let's focus right in on Mario. I want to pull him out.
So there's a couple of movies. One of my favorite movies, I think, right now from World War II is probably Red Tails. I love it only because of the swagger behind it and how they carried themselves, and I kind of gave them that light to shine. Glory is another one that pops out to me. Platoon. There's so many different movies to me that I have always kind of, I guess, gravitated to as a kid, being a kid that wanted to be in the military, but seeing that aspect of it and kind of living in that role where you see it. And then fast forward to what I get to see, I got to work on one of the newest airplanes in our fleet, which is C-17, and I got to fly all over the world. And being a kid from Highland Park, Michigan, and being able to experience the world from that point of view, from a flying crew chief point of view, and being able to explore the different countrysides, that's almost monumental for what it can do to a young black mind, and how it molded me to be nothing's out of my reach. It kind of put me in that perspective, and now I kind of carry that everywhere I go. I enter every room as myself. I don't try to switch up, but because of that, that's kind of how I feel the way I feel.
Well, listen, thank you for sharing that. I think so many young people need to hear it. They take a look, you are, you're FAMU'd out, you're rattlered out. I got my cowboy hat on. You enter your spaces authentically as yourself. About how many, let's shift now to leadership. And then we're going to go right into advice for those who are furloughed, those who've been laid off, and those who are college students leaking opportunities. But
man, I think I'm losing you, man. I can't hear you on my end again.
Okay. Can you hear me now? This is like, we're going to go like into one of those.
No, I got nothing. It's.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can't hear anything. I don't know what's going on. I just lost it again.
Like to have happen. We're going to go to another quick commercial. We're going to fix that. See, that's what happens when you use the off-the-shelf earbuds instead of the Apple earbuds. So shout out to Apple for the earbuds. I'm gonna send you a pair of Apple AirPods so that you can have that for our next call, and then we'll go from there. So let's go right to commercial. All right, welcome back to the show. We're going to bring Mr. Mario Williams back. On the next part of the show, our conversation will center onto leadership and then also advice. This is, you don't want to miss this part of the show. So Mario, there's going to be two questions I'm going to ask you. Two questions. The first is, let's talk about leadership. Tell me the 5 W's of your leadership. How many people are you leading, working with at a time? I know you have a big organization, probably a couple hundred, couple thousand people that you're responsible for. And then give us the 5 leadership principles that you lead teams by.
I think it's important, 2 things. In any team, they're always different, depending on the project you're working on. The first thing is being attentive, understanding the room you're in. I think that's the main thing. It's not establishing a dominance in a room, but just understanding the room that you're in. That's the first thing. I think that from just being in situations where I didn't have to be the leader, but I was also a follower and had to be in that room. But understanding the tone, the temperature of that room, and understanding how those people in the room are adapting to you. The second piece I would have to say would have to be understanding, how those people communicate. That's a big part of any kind of room you're in and any kind of situation you're in, is how they communicate, how they receive information, but also how they give information and being able to listen and take in information in order to make a decision as a leader. Um, another good point, another, I guess, petal in the flower of leadership, there, if I want to call it, it's just uh, knowing when to be assertive, knowing when to push, knowing when to fall back, knowing how to drive, and this comes from life lessons, right? Because we've all been in situations where we haven't been the leader or the guy who had to drive the show, but in those cases, is how you want to be responded to, how you want to be heard, how you want to be pushed and motivated, and sometimes, motivation isn't the same for everyone. Like, I had a coach who yelled at everyone. It worked for me, but it wouldn't work for everyone else. The other one is compassion. I think that's a bigger one than anything else you could use, is understanding that people have issues outside of work, outside of the goal that we're trying to push, and being able to understand that, but also how to even that load out amongst the other team and bring everyone in to kind of come together with that compassion. And then I think the most important aspect you can have in any team is respect. There's a level of respect that you have to have in any situation that you're dealing with, but there has to be a mutual respect in that room, that everyone trusts each other to do their job. Some of the best teams I've ever been a part of are those that trust each other to do their job, be it football field or even an engineering project that's $100 million or $10 million, whatever that case is. If there's no level of respect, then you won't get anything done because you're constantly working against each other.
So what I hear you say is, if there was such a thing as Mario's 5 petals of the leadership flower, it is respect, it is compassion, it is situational awareness, it is communication, it is self-discipline. So, I mean, I'm going to write those things down. I will put them on my refrigerator so that not just my team can see it at work, but also, my children can see it, because I love those 5 petals of leadership. And I'm going to tell the children, this is Mo's 5 petals.
Well, I appreciate that.
But in all of that sounds good. But what do you do? How do you lead yourself when you've just been laid off? Or you're working for no paycheck, like many of the people who are listening to this. What is some practical advice that we can give those? What should people be doing now while they're sitting at home on a Wednesday afternoon at 12:34 listening to us?
I think the most important thing, and I read the Bible, and I'm a believer in the body of Christ. But I think that one of the things that I learned from the Apostle Paul is there's a blessing in singleness. There's a blessing in just being able to focus on yourself. And I think that in any situation where it's a life turning or a life changing event, you should not be the same. You should take that opportunity to learn something new, to develop a new discipline trait, to do something that you can do to make yourself a better version of yourself. That should be the goal every day. I teach my kids this, and since they were kids, be 1% better than the day before. 1%. That's it. It's not a lot when you think about it, but it's just 1%. If you continue to get 1% better every single day for the rest of your life, imagine where your life can be. And it's just that simple. And I think I quick come back to where I come from a small town in the inner city of Detroit. um I don't remember not having or knowing lack. Even though we didn't have a lot, I didn't know lack. And I think a big reason, it was because of my parents. My parents were always there to kind of find a silver lining, to look at the glass as always half full. Because of that, I've developed that trait in my life and how I even look at everything I do, no matter what it looks like, even a layoff or a furlough or a shutdown like we're dealing with now. This is an opportunity to now, okay, now the government stopped. Where can I put my attention that's now it is constant, because it's constantly moving. I work in this field every day, so it's constantly a change or a contract that we're pushing to get through. Now that everything's sitting still, where can I put my attention and grow somewhere else? Where can I look further? How can I better myself? What can I learn? What new program can I learn? What can I learn about a software or a new way of doing something that I can enhance the way I'm doing it for the next employer? But the worst thing, the very worst thing you can do is sit idle. The very first thing. I read a quote, and I think it was on Facebook or something like that. It said that it's hard to hit a moving target. So when depression and things that are negative in your life are looking to target you, it's harder to hit you when you're moving. It's harder to hit a moving target. So keep moving. Stay as active as you can. This is true. I run at least a 5K every single day, out of discipline. But for two things, it keeps me in track of what my day is, It allows me to kind of prioritize what I need to happen that day in my life with my kids, with my family. That's my time for just me. And I can't sit there and think about it 'cause I'm constantly running. It's a push of my endurance, myself. I'm bettering myself, but at the same time, I'm also being in shape. So those things you do in life, those little things, those 1% tweaks you can make in your life, keeps you from being the same. You should not go back next week or after this shutdown. After this shutdown's over, if you're still the same and the only person to blame is yourself, you should be looking in the mirror, reading books, understanding how to be better. Listening to podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to learn things and how to do things better. Open them up and see what they talk about. It's a good thing to do. I think they're awesome.
Well, you mentioned several things. Number one, you said when the government is at a stop, you need to keep moving. I think that might be the quote, the theme of this show. When things are at a stop, you need to keep moving. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone that I'm running a 5K. Mario's not. If he can run a 5K, then it's up to other warriors and competitors to get out there, stay in the gym. I do stay in the gym and exercise, and physical fitness is a big part of my life as well. But that 5K, listen, I almost want to take the hat off to you. That's definitely some host stuff. All right, what about entrepreneurship? There are people. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to go there because that's kind of a stretch for a lot of people. Let's talk about talent and finding a new opportunity in a government entity or a corporation.
Yes.
Any tips on resume, networking? What should people be doing?
I think that it's not about finding a job that exists sometimes. Sometimes it's about finding a job that you're irreplaceable at. I'll explain it. You have be hiring for I hire all the time for drafters, mechanical engineers, and guys like that. What makes someone stand out or what makes someone different than next? Everyone can use a software and manipulate a model, but what makes someone stand out is how they could do that, but do something that my company didn't know it needed. That's where it comes to learning yourself again. So when you look at it from a perspective of me, for example, I'm an engineer, and just like anyone else, I can design, I can use CAD, I can do stress analysis, I can do all those things. The one thing that I use to use myself to stand out is I'm a better communicator. I had to learn that over time, though. Being able to communicate what needs to be done, what has to be done, failure points, all those things that people sometimes miss in conversations. I'm very forefront with those. So it makes me a more, I guess, more adequate servant in that way. I think that any leader should be a servant before they're ever a leader, because that's what you are. You're serving the people you work under.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we're going to insert a clip of you in action so that watch this on YouTube, who see that after recording, at this point, there's going to be a segment of about 15 seconds with Mario suited and booted, and then see what the companies who are hiring are seeing him. So, all right. So then let's go then to, there's always an elephant in the room. I like going right to the elephants in the room. So let's talk about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
A lot of us have spent our whole life in large organizations with steady, reliable paychecks. But now this is an opportunity for entrepreneurship. So can you speak to that perspective, especially because you work both sides of it?
Yes, I think that's important to have multiple streams of income. There's no way to survive in today's society with just one stream of income. I mean, it's to rely on it. It's almost detrimental to your own safety and growth. I think that it's important to find out what you're good at, and I think entrepreneurship starts with the passion within. You can't do it for the money. It's just what sounds crazy to say that, but you can't do it for the money. You have to do it for the passion, because if you do it for the passion, you'll want to do it. And when you do it for the money, you it's kind of driven on if you're making money or not. And I'll tell you the truth, when you become an entrepreneur, those first few years, you're not making any money. So you got to have some passion behind it. That's just really what it comes down to. To start out, to grow and foster, it's like raising a child, because you really have to baby this thing. You really have to give it what it needs. It costs more money to grow this thing than to start it, and you have to keep your eyes on the end line, the goal of getting where you want to be. Because if you look at where you are, sometimes you can get lost and go, "Man, I'm in over my head." But it's just about keeping your focus, keeping your faith, and staying locked in on what you set out to do to begin with.
Fantastic. All right. So then, Mario, also tell me then about education, furthering your education. How should people handle that?
I'm all for it. I'm all for
Yeah, degrees. I mean, I don't even know how many you got.
Yes. But that's because my company's paid for them. I'll tell you that. So I've never paid for school, and thank God, knock on wood or whatever you want to call it, but I've never had to pay for school, and that's a blessing. But school can be expensive. Master's degrees are expensive. Doctor's degrees are really expensive. But I would say anytime you can take advantage of an opportunity to uh, grow your portfolio. When I say your brand, and the more you can add to your tassel or add to your stream or whatever you have to put in front of your name, letters or so be it, do it. If it's a certification, if it's something simple you think is small, do it because you never know what company could use that. I think that we sometimes limit ourselves as far as we get in our careers and we're doing it, we're making decent money, and we learn that good is the enemy to great. And sometimes what happens is we don't continue to pursue that higher level of education because we're good. But in actuality, is sometimes that higher level of education is not really for us, but it's more so for the people around us, our children, the people that work with us. They want to learn more about us, and they can. How you learn more is to give more. I've learned that people pay you for what you know, what you do. I don't know what happened to Matt. There he is. He's back. Perfect timing. But that's the key thing. People will pay you for what you know, not for what you do. So the more you know, the more you grow. That's a commercial somewhere.
All right. Well, no, Mario, that's excellent. Mario, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a brief commercial, and then we're going to come back for your final remarks, and then also for my final remarks.
Sweet.
Sometimes we don't even know what we don't know, and we don't know who we can talk to. But it's organizations like this where you can have those conversations so that you don't feel isolated. What do I need to know to get there? Okay, I went to college, I got the degree, I got a master's or I got a PhD. How do you make certain that you know what you're supposed to do and how to navigate a corporation within? That's huge. That's huge. Sometimes we don't have a family member in our circle. Sometimes it's somebody that we knew 5 years ago who can bring some information to the table. We have to be able to dial a number with people that we know understand what we may or may not be going through or what we need. So if you're getting a PhD, but you didn't know that you also needed to do something else or not, who's there to be able to talk to you and help you navigate your career? People who've already had that experience that you can just call up and say, I just had this experience and it didn't feel good. And somebody's there to talk you through it. Life isn't always easy in corporate America, but you've got to build your circle.
This year, the tide is stronger than ever. For 30 years, we've been creating space for growth, innovation, and global competitiveness in STEM. From students and early career professionals to senior leaders and executives, this is where STEM changemakers gather. Join us in Baltimore for the 30th anniversary of the Waves of Change STEM Global Competitiveness Conference. 3 days of learning, networking, and shaping the future. October 23rd through the 25th, Baltimore, Maryland. Mark your calendar. Waves of Change, Oceans of Opportunity. More information at ccgmag.com/WOC.
All right, Waves of Change, Oceans of Opportunity. I so enjoyed my time with you last week with the sessions, learning, networking, hiring. We had companies there that were actually hiring. So those of you who are furloughed, those of you who are looking for your new opportunities, I'm not even going to say laid off. Those of you who are looking for your new opportunities, that Waves of Change conference was absolutely fantastic in Baltimore. We have another conference, major conference coming up, Becoming Everything You Are. Mario, I look forward to seeing you there. You know what? I'm glad that you brought the hat out. You know, listen, this is about bringing your whole self to work. I'm going to ask the production team to also pull up a picture of Mario suited and booted so that people can also get a sense of what he is like when he's in a suit. The next one.
Freaking, yeah.
And next one. That's when he was in the Army, Air Force. Next one.
Sleeping on duty. That's a bad thing.
And you can see the journey of life is Mario has gone from being an Air Force airman to being a young executive working in companies, and then to now the final product. And guess what? You can take all the photos off production and just have the two hat-wearing cowboys. You know, we when we talk about a show for warriors, by warriors, I think that the American West and the American South and that farm culture, those folks who came from the Mississippi Delta and went up to Southside Chicago and also to Detroit. But at the heart of it is the black hat and the white hat culture. I think you hear it in the boots on the ground and just that whole embracing. Those of you who had the opportunity to hear Mario speak, he spoke about being an athlete, about being a lifelong learner and a lifelong athlete. And that's what being a warrior is about. But he also spoke about respect and compassion. And those are two principles that any warrior scholar holds near and dear. So now that you got your hat on, give some final words to the audience, center on Mario Mo Williams production, and give us 3 minutes, the best 3 minutes of your life. Go.
Matt, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on this podcast, man. When you told me about it last week, I was like, really? You want me to have you on the podcast? But I really do just enjoy pouring into people. I think that's one of the single free things we can do in life is to just pour into people. I encourage everyone else to do that. When you have free time, just say hello. Sometimes a kind word can go a long ways and motivate people who could be going through the worst days of their lives. You could be the only bright spot in someone's day. So be that bright spot and wear it and be it and that can become part of you. You reap what you sow. So whatever you put out in the world, it comes back to you. That's all I got,
now,
man.
You all heard him give that presentation. For some of you, it might have been muted, but what we're going to do is we're going to come back, add sound to it, because that's what we do. We adapt and overcome. So yes. Mario, I want to thank you, brother. I want to thank you for being on this show. I mean, I want to thank you for the hat. I want to thank you for the Rattler representation. And I want to thank you just for continuing this whole spirit of excellence in corporate America, excellence in your family life, in your faith life. So as a warrior, the only way that warriors stay at the top of their game is, number one, by continuing to practice and continuing to prepare for war. And then number two, by surrounding themselves with other like-minded men and women who sharpen you to be your best. So thank you for wearing the hat again. I saw you with the strike again. I saw that loud and clear. So we will strike and strike again. Production, if you'll focus on me, thank you, brother Mario Mo Williams. We will see you next time. And I'm going to bring you our final remarks here after this commercial. The motto of Florida A&M University is excellence with caring. And the motto of Career Communications Group is becoming everything you are. When you merge those two things together, come to the Becoming Everything You Are conference. I cannot encourage you enough. That is the place where these conversations will intersect with live people, the live people who are in my network. and the network of over 50,000 professionals. So we are sponsored by CCG. That is why we are here, but it would not happen without us being thoroughly embedded in the CCG ecosystem. Once you come, you will never not attending. So once again, my name is Matt Bowman. I want to thank you for tuning in to the briefing room, and tune in next week as we bring to you a very special 4-star guest, a 4-star guest. So this guest has led hundreds of thousands of men and women. We are taking the show, we're climbing, we are tweaking the edges, getting the production right, and now we're going to the 4 stars and the CEOs. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Stay ready, stay ready, stay ready.